All right, welcome everybody. My name is David Dulany. I'm a CEO of Tenbound, joined today by Steve Eror with Chat Funnels. How you doing, Steve?
So good to be with you, Dave. It's been too long.
It really has. Yes, I know. We were just talking Salt Lake City, Utah, which is a great town I just got back from, and excited to get back out there. I know Chat Funnels is doing some amazing things. Steve, today we're talking leveraging the dark funnel, the
Yep.
proper care and feeding of demand gen leads, which is what you do. So
Yeah.
tell us about chat funnels and what you're working on there.
Yeah. So listen, our job is really to bridge that gap
Mm,
between the marketing team and the sales team.
mm,
People are coming on the site, and let's get them engaged with your sales team just that much faster. Let's
yeah,
figure out who they are. And talk to them and get them the right people engaged with your salespeople, so you're making the most of it. I spent most of my time. I don't know how many webinars have we done together, David. Like a bunch, probably more than a handful, and it's because I spent a lot of my time running BDR teams, SDR teams, kind of your wheelhouse. And I'll toot David's horn. If you're in sales development, business development, and you're managing teams, he has written the Bible for running those teams, and you need to pick yourself a copy of David's book. That's the one. And mine does not look nearly that nice, as it's all ratted and dog-eared, and as I ran sales development teams. So yeah, a lot of what I did and a lot of what you advise teams on doing is just this: taking care of the leads that are in some form or another handed to your team. Right?
Yeah.
We're here at the Demand Gen Summit. Demand Gen is pretty much useless if you're not going to do anything with it. And so let's focus on how you effectively engage with that great demand gen our demand gen leaders have put together for us.
100%. And we call it like low hanging fruit, really, when we come in and we're working with BDR teams, SDR teams. Let's take a look at the inbound flow, the process, and how you're actually executing on the proper care and feeding of your demand gen leads. Because everyone on the call is working so hard to understand how to get people engaged and focused just in this crazy world that we live in. And at that point, you've got to be ready and have a process in place to make sure that you really maximize those. So let's dive in. And so,
Absolutely.
when we were thinking about the demand gen leads that come in, we bucketed them out into 4 major categories. And there's probably more, but this is enough to get us started. So,
Yep.
Steve, we talked about hand raisers, moderately interested, cold names, and lurkers, or the dark funnel, which is that one's I'm really excited to talk about. Let's dive in.
Well, yeah, the lurkers, we're going to save that to the end there. That's the one that I think we're always used to talking about those other 3, and we have some important things to say about those other 3. But we need to peel back the onion a little bit, one layer deeper, and talk about the lurkers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's the challenge that we have now. The lurkers. We've dealt with the first 3 for a long time, and a lot of probably a lot of the people on the call are really good at how they work through the process on those. But the lurkers, it's okay. How do we leverage those? So let's dive in. So if you think about it at levels, after you've done the demand gen campaigns, you might do an event like this. Level 1 is the hand raisers. And these are people that want to talk to you, or, from a product led perspective, for example, they've been using the product for a while and you've got indications that they want to talk to you. So let's break it down. Who are they? Goals, paths, and best practices in dealing with them. So Absolutely. First of all, Steve, who are we talking about?
So I think a couple of examples of groups that do this. I think, for example, we had Calendly on the Demand Gen Summit, and they do this where you can kind of raise your hand for a free trial and give it a shot. And it's those people who are raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I want to look, I want to demo, I want to try it. Talk to me," right? The contact me page. And who are they? Well, sometimes if you're really lucky, it's the decision maker, right? It's the person who controls the budget who says, yes, we need to buy this. And they're the one that raises their hand. A lot of times it's either an influencer or a scout. And so influencer is the person who says, hey, you know what? I'm a demand gen leader and my SDRs need to follow up on these leads better. I'm not going to be the one who buys it, but I can influence and refer this over to the SDR, the sales leader, to go ahead and look at this so they follow up better. But also sometimes, and I think this goes underutilized, is the category of the scout. And the scout is someone, I used to do this when I was running SDR teams. I said, listen to my reps, you've got a problem, go find a tool that solves it and bring it to me. Take a look at it. I only want to look at tools that can actually solve the problem for my team, right? Are they the decision maker? No, absolutely not. Are they an influencer? Maybe a little bit in a roundabout way, but really they're that person who's on the front lines, who's looking for the tool. And too often, sales and sales development teams neglect those scouts because they say, they don't have any juice. They're not the guy. I don't want to talk to them. Talk to them. It's your foot in the door.
Yeah. And it goes into the goal. So, when we talk about hand raisers, it's otherwise known as a red hot lead. And I think,
gold.
These are the reason that we get out of bed in the morning. Right? And so so step one is, okay, is it a decision maker, influencer, or a scout? But the goal really for all three of those is, with a hand raiser, they want help right now. They want to talk to someone. So that's the goal. So then you go into the path. So there's going to be different paths depending on whether they're a decision maker, influencer, or scout, as far as bringing in the BDR teams, sending directly to AEs.
Yeah, I think this is one, my heart is with the BDRs. And you want to send good stuff to the BDRs. This is one, however, where if your AE team, and this is a big if your AE team, if your sales team is responsive enough, send it right to the AEs. If they are slammed or they're not responsive, and I've seen that at some teams I've managed, you want to make sure you send it to the sales development team, because they're the ones, they're going to be all over that. They're hungry. They want to set that appointment. They want to set that meeting. So you need to look at your specific team and say, okay, what's the best way to go at this? But the key is you got to respond quickly, because if they're raising a hand for you, guess what? They're probably also raising a hand for your competitor. Right. And so this is one where we talk speed to lead. You need to be in touch with those folks. I'm not talking, if you're talking hours, you're late. If you're talking 30, 45 minutes, you're late. It needs to be within seconds or minutes. Whatever you can, as fast as you can get it to the SDR needs to be on the phone with them.
Yeah. Yep. And I've seen it done different ways. So, if there's a volume of leads and you're trying to sort out if it's a decision maker, influencer, or scout, you have a BDR, SDR team that's ready to go. I've seen companies send all of those to the BDR team to just make sure that it's an instant, response, and then filter it to the AE. For smaller companies, maybe you don't have as many, BDRs and things like that, it might go straight to the AE. But then you get into the problem of, if the AE is on a call, if they're, on an airplane and that type of thing, that individual, especially if it's a scout, they might be, like you said, going to 5 different companies to start to get quotes and learn about it. And you just got, off of the spreadsheet. You're not even being considered anymore because nobody got back to the scout. So
that's exactly right. You have to have those SLAs, those service level agreements, SLAs, in place that say, hey, these leads, these hot leads, this gold that as demand gen team, we are supplying the sales team. You need to respond to this within this amount, or we're going to do this. Give it to the AEs. And if you can't do it because you're on a plane, then it's going to go to the SDRs because they're going to respond. Or if, but you have to monitor that. You need to watch that response time. That is crucial.
Very crucial. And so if you're just starting out, the service level agreement could be a whiteboard. Just get a whiteboard and understand if one of these hand raisers comes in, what is going to be the commitment on both sides, from the BDR SDRs to the AEs. What's our time commitment? Okay. Does everybody agree? Yes. Okay, we have agreement. So now the next thing is there's got to be somebody holding people accountable to fulfilling the SLAs and monitoring those reports and making sure that you're always, upskilling and upgrading on the response time. Have you found that? Because a lot of SDR and especially SDR teams, they don't have managers. So it's like, you don't have a good reporting and accountability structure.
I had I was lucky enough to work with a guy named Derek Boggs at a previous company, and he was our demand gen leader. I was running the SDR team, but we worked side by side. If I held my team accountable as well. I told my team, listen, he's going to call you out on it. If you're not calling on these leads fast enough, when he speaks, we are absolutely aligned. We are lockstep. So the demand gen leader or a marketing ops or sales ops leader, there needs to be that reporting, and you have regular measurements to make sure that you're reporting on these fast enough.
Yeah. And it's that relationship that marketing has with sales and SDR. I mean, sometimes the SDR BDR team will actually report to marketing.
I've done both.
More common. Yeah, exactly. And we've seen both where they report to sales or marketing, but having everybody on the same page that these hot leads are absolute gold, and we really have to have a high standard on follow-up, and it's not a political thing or sales versus marketing. It's pipeline and revenue.
It's a doing what's right for the business thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So somebody has to be, I don't want to say the bad guy, but just monitoring that we're following the service level agreement, we're getting back to people fast enough, and we're improving those metrics.
Absolutely.
Yep. So now, Steve, the next level down, we call it moderately interested. And that can be thrown into a bucket of content marketing, one-seat licenses on PLG leads, syndication leads, that whole universe of like your medium level leads.
MQLs where they score a certain amount. Yeah,
right.
MQLs where they score a certain amount. Right. It's funny. I worked at a place that got a huge push for a while on hand raiser leads, and then when these came in, my SDRs, these are garbage. Well, they're not garbage. They're absolutely not garbage. They just require some work, right? Yeah. These are great leads. They're better than they're not cold. They know who you are, and yeah. Who can they be at these accounts? Well, they can be kind of the same people that your hand raisers are, right? If they're poking around, you're scoring them with Marketo or HubSpot or whatever, and they get a certain lead score, and now it's time to reach out on them. It could be scouts, like going in and reading and trying to make sure they make a good recommendation. It could be the influencers, the decision makers. So it could be the same kind of crew. They're just trying to sit back a little bit more and not necessarily raise their hand.
Yeah. And they've got different goals, right? Than the red hot leads. So the goal for these people, they're looking to learn, they're looking to solve a problem. They might have downloaded one of your research papers. They're getting new knowledge, so they've got a different goal, obviously, than raising their hand and going, hey, I want to take a demo. Yeah.
A lot of the people, honestly, on this, attending this summit, they fit into this category. They're not here looking for a specific tool or solution necessarily. They're looking to learn, and you put out good content, and they're coming in and they're learning, and they're getting more information. So you might have seen in the chat down below that my team's been engaging with you guys. I've been engaging all morning with people, trying to get conversations going. Guess what? As far as we're concerned, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. If you're on a summit, you know that you're this kind of lead, right?
Yeah. Yes. Welcome, everyone moderately interested.
Yes.
But it's a long game because I'll assume that everyone on the call, that you're putting out great content, you're creating events like this, you're adding a lot of value in the marketplace, and you're building your brand as a trusted expert, in this particular area. And we want to engage, from a customer perspective. What's the best way to do it? And some of the paths in this case to make sure that we stay in touch with them is perhaps an automated response, or a light touch by the BDR team.
The direction you might have seen from my team is we're adding value. This is my play always here, is let's add value. Hey, you attended this Demand Gen Summit, the Spring 2022 Summit. What were you looking for? How can I help you? Did you get all the listen to all the presentations that you wanted to listen to? Yes, it'll be available on demand. All this stuff. Answer the questions, right? Get a conversation going. Constantly be providing value. And when you see the time is right, and this is where it takes a little bit of proper finesse. When you see the time is right, then you say, hey, listen, I've got another solution for you. And that's when you talk about whatever your solution is that makes sense.
Yep. So. Exactly. And it's if you have a newsletter, or if there's a way that you can stay in touch, adding value over the long term, and you continuously are solving an issue that they have, eventually they're going to pop back up, and they might go into the dark funnel, which we'll talk about, where you don't actually know if it was related to the initial event that you put on, 6 months ago, but they're popping back up because now they've built that trust over time, and they know that the BDR is a resource for them to help. Versus,
that's right.
I think the worst thing that you can do with the medium leads is have the BDR call and go, hey, I noticed that you downloaded a white paper. I don't know about you, but I've downloaded 6 white papers today. I've watched three virtual conferences. I'm seeking information to try to solve a problem, but it's not necessarily, I'm not a hand raiser,
right. Ask the question, hey, you did download this white paper. What were you looking for? I might know of a better resource that we have. Hey, you know what answers your question even better? This one. Or, I've talked to teams where, even with us, with what we're doing in an account-based engagement, they're saying, hey, we're really just trying to build our SDR team. Well, great. That's not what I do, but let me provide some value. Let me connect you over to this guy, David Dulany, who helps with that. Be that, there we go. Yep, exactly. Let's be that resource.
Yeah.
And so that I call this the Miracle on 34th Street principle. If you've ever watched that movie, both the old one and the new one, I'm partial to the old one. I like old movies. You remember Santa Claus is sitting in the store, and the little kid sits on his lap and says, hey, I want this for Christmas. And he turns to the mom and says, hey, don't get it here. It's cheaper down the street. Right. Yeah. And is actually giving actual advice, giving value back to the people visiting Gimbals, I think. Right. Be that as a BDR. Hey, listen, don't try to fit your solution in there, but say, hey, let me be a value added resource. So I can say, hey, listen, you need to talk to these guys. These guys can help you out. And when you get to this point where this is where we can help out when you solve that problem, and you become trusted.
Right? Yeah. And 100%. And you're helping to connect the dots. And that's something, I think we talked about this on our last webinar. It's something that the computer systems cannot do yet, in that you're adding context, to the problem that you're trying to solve for the prospect, and it might not even have anything to do with your company right at that point. You're trying to actually help them by adding value and offering other resources, and then building that trust. And of course, now you've made a relationship that eventually, if they need something that you can help with, you're going to get that call. So
absolutely. The other thing I want to add to this, and we'll go on to the next one, is you got to make sure, as a company, as a demand gen organization, you are appropriately tracking the activity or the engagement of the people coming to you, right? If they're coming down and they're downloading white paper after white paper after white paper after white paper, that's a company you want to target. You want to do other demand gen centric things, retargeting all the great stuff that they're doing to focus it. They're looking for information. You also need to engage. You need to let your team know, but that should be separated when they're heavily engaged and you're keeping track of that. You need to segment those off. Have an alert set up, when they hit your site, for your team. Hey, listen, this company that you're going after, or that is heavily engaged, they're on the site again. It's time for you to call out as soon as you can.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue, because now it's getting cold around here, right? Okay, so now we're going into the third bucket, which is just the cold names. Everyone, put on your jacket. It's the cold calls, right? So now this is where we really get into the account level, right? Because we start with the who. We have a lot of control over who this list of people ends up being, because we can start with a curated list of the accounts that we're really interested in and that we really want to engage with. So that part of it's exciting. Whereas, with the inbounds, it's like we kind of got to take, what ends up coming in. This one we can really target.
Right. You can target your messaging. So it's for specific groups of people. It takes an understanding of what your ideal customer profile is and who your buying committee is. And if you have those two things, not one of them, but you need both of them, and you put it together, now you've got this great cross section, this matrix, if you will, of this is how I need to reach out. And so you're not reaching out to the scouts, right? You're reaching out to, I mean, if you happen to get a scout, use that as an opportunity to get information, but that's not your target. Your target is, let's get in front of the people who can make a difference and actually talk about your solution. The trick is, they don't have a goal. They don't even know you exist, perhaps. Right. And so, that's the heavy lift here.
Yeah. And this is when you get into like the old school, numbers game. I mean, there's a universe of potential accounts out there that would be a great fit for you and you should be talking to. But now we need to start to kind of whittle those down. Number one, that they're aware that you exist. And then number two, do they actually have an active problem that you could help solve? So
absolutely,
how do we go about doing that?
Well, you run ABM. This is where you run ABM, or sorry, Gabe, I said ABM, or ABE campaigns.
Yeah.
Gabe Larson hates the term ABM, but you need to run ABE campaigns where your focus is to get these people who might not know that you exist engaged, right? Yeah. So you need to run those ads. You need to have targeted, personalized emails sent out to them, right? Yeah. One misconception is that the ABM, ABE is all about sending gifts. I think that's an important tool. Sendoso does it, for example, and does it very, very well. That's not all of it, right? It's not all about sending that big gift. It's all about sending something that's personalized, that is focused on them. I think about an email I got one time from an SDR who said, "Hey, you went to the University of Utah, and your mascot is the red-tailed hawk. And here's some facts about the red-tailed hawk, and here's how those facts correlate into sales and marketing." Right? That's not an email that would have worked for you, David. You'd be like, but that worked specifically for me. And I took the call because honestly, he was focused on me. He knew who I was. He had a message that applied to me and my situation. He had a good handle of what my problem was because of what my job was, right? If you're
Right.
running an SDR team or a sales team or a marketing team, your problems look pretty much like all the other SDR, sales, marketing, ops teams, right? They're all pretty similar.
Yeah.
And so he focused on that, but your
Love
messaging has to be on point.
Big time. And the good news about the cold list is you have a lot of control over curating it, enriching it, making sure that you have the right people. You
Yep.
can put your messaging together, and leverage the when you say account-based, is it account-based engagement, ABE?
Yes.
That
Yes.
versus okay, account-based engagement. So you can leverage your systems to make sure that you're targeting them with the ads, and you're doing events that are specialized toward that group of accounts, and so there's a lot of control there. The bad news is, like I said, there's only a certain amount of people in that cohort that actually are going to want to engage and talk with you. So this is
That's
the
right.
outbound, yeah, the outbound part of it. Now this
Yes.
is where we get into the fourth classification of the leads, is the dark funnel. So it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like you think about somebody at a company, where a scout, was looking into you, but you actually haven't talked to the decision maker, but they talk,
Mm-hmm.
on Slack or in the hallway, and they learn about you, and now they're kind of lurking, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
you've been cold calling to your list, and they got the message, but they never responded back, and now they're starting to kind of lurk. So you
Yep.
have this
Yep.
data, within your
Mm-hmm.
system, and signals are coming up, but these
Mm-hmm.
people you've never actually engaged with. So we call them the
Right.
lurkers, and this is the dark
Yeah.
funnel. Yeah.
Yeah. These are the
How do
people
we
who
deal with
are
them?
on your site. Yeah. These
Yeah.
are the people that are on your site. They're not engaging with they're not clicking on anything. They're not filling out any forms. Like they might be reading the content you have on there. They're not going past any gated content. They're just
Yeah.
sitting there, uh, kind of absorbing, and they're looking through your site. They might go to pricing pages. They might get some information. They're not raising their hands. What you need is a tool that is going to do a lookup. And so a couple of companies that do that, you're going to have a lot of your intent based companies are going to look at that, do that reverse IP lookup. So your 6sense, your demand base, it's what
Mhm.
chat funnels actually does. A lot of people think, hey, we're chat bot. That's a part of what we do. The real beauty is that IP lookup where we're identifying the accounts that are on your page, and we're saying, hey, listen, this account that meets your ICP is on your site right now, and you want to
Mhm.
engage them. Now, with a lot of tools, you've got to then use a data provider to go out. Now that I know that XYZ company is kind of going around, poking around my website. Now it's always been up to the SDRs to go to your content or your contact providers to go and scrape those to get contact information for those people. I can tell you something that's better than that, because that's where the ball gets dropped a lot on these. Is part of what we're doing is we will look, and when someone comes on your website that matches your ICP, and we will help you identify who your buying committee is. We will go out and get the names, titles, and email addresses for your buying committee and throw that back in your CRM. So now your
Nice.
team can automatically start following up with these lurkers, right? It's not saying that those people automatically were on your site, but we can follow up with those lurker accounts, and get you engaged with the buying committee, right?
Got it.
And
Okay.
so,
And now how do
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the only thing that's better than that is something we kicked off, and I think in another presentation, Sterling's going to go over it. But
Mhm.
it's something called Play Runner. We just kicked it off, and it's going to send out the first couple emails. But even if you
Mhm.
don't have that, put them in a campaign. So now your team's automatically using your dialer to call out on them, act on them. The biggest problem with this intent data, and this is my big beef with intent data, is not the intent data providers. It's the fact that sales teams and SDRs don't know how to properly act on it. And so it
Yeah.
becomes a report that goes up on the shelf, or it never gets acted on. So make it automatic. It's part of what we do. But make sure that you're engaging with these. This should be now your cold target accounts, and let's automate that process.
Yeah, well said. I mean, because we're literally out there working with SDR and BDR teams, and the companies have made an investment in intent, which is
Mm-hmm.
great because now
Mm-hmm.
you've got that information, but it's the last mile problem. It's like taking the information from the IP addresses, understanding that the account is in there, and then what does the SDR BDR do with that in order to
Yep.
get a conversation going? And
Yep.
at best, it's having to go find the data, getting someone who is potentially the lead,
Mm-hmm.
and hoping that they were the one that was looking at your website.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see how the failure rate is tremendous, and it's a lot of time spent. So you're almost there. But the other thing is, if you are able to understand, who's on your website, what they're doing, and then go ahead and find the name, and it is actually the person, where we see a BDR struggling is, what do you say? Like, without sounding like a total stalker, you know, I know that you were on my website.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's the same with, hey, you just downloaded a white paper, like you want to buy my product. You've got to have that scripting
Mm-hmm.
right, the messaging.
Yeah, I think what you need to do, you definitely need to have that scripting.
Yeah,
It's a similar path to the cold calls. You enroll them in some sort of ABE campaign as well. You
yeah,
focus stuff at them, and you let them know, hey, listen, I think we deal with people in your position all the time. It's the old Sandler approach. We can solve. We find that people have these problems, and we can help you with that. Engage with them. Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't go out and say, hey, listen, we know. We've been watching. That
yeah,
gets creepy. But just use that data for the best of your advantage. The same way you'd use the data on any of the others, the content,
yeah,
the content attenders. What you're just able to do, and the big difference here is these people are staying in the shadows, and we're putting a flashlight on them. So now you can engage with them.
yeah. And I mean, I always use this analogy. I think I used it last time, but a lot of this it's very similar to fly fishing. Because and if you think of the SDR BDR is the fisher person, I guess they call, and you're trying to lay down the perfect fly right on top of the water, and that's the problem that your
Mm-hmm.
potential prospect may be having, and you just
Mm-hmm.
need to keep trying to lay that down right in front of the right fish at the right time with the right
Right.
line, and that's
Yep.
what you're doing all day. So and what
Great
this,
analogy.
yeah, I mean, potentially, okay, we've got intent data, so it's putting us into the right range in the river. But where are the fish really, and who are they,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's
Yeah.
it gets it
That's
right
that's
in
the
front of
honestly,
them.
it's like
Yeah,
going to the green. It's going to the Green
yeah,
River. It's taking a guide who's going to point it out to you. Hey, they hide underneath that log over there. Get
yeah.
your fly over there. It's that
Mhm.
information. That's what the intent data is doing, right? But if you sit there and the
Yeah,
guide's like, hey, they're right underneath that rock over there, and you never throw your fly in the water, what's the point, right?
right.
And then the key
Yep.
is, the fly fishing example. I love that because it's up to you to entice that fish to go and bite, right? You got to
Yeah.
get him to do it. So
Yep.
yeah.
It's a subtle skill, and it wraps it up because really all of these, the buckets, the hot leads, the medium, the cold, the lurkers, they're all interrelated at the account
Hmm.
level as well.
Hmm.
And so always, I mean, even we recommend even companies that are a pure demand gen model, and everything's hooked up, and a lot of companies have a product led growth strategy, and everything's at the demand gen level, we always recommend to also bring it up to the account level and start to think about,
Absolutely.
things from an account-based engagement perspective. Because if I'll give you an example, the hot lead comes in, it's a scout, but it's at one of your A accounts. Okay, now we can begin to build a profile of that account. We've got one person who downloaded a white paper or something like that, and now from an outbound perspective, okay, we need the decision makers, we need the influencers, we need to start some ad campaigns, etc., to activate that account.
Absolutely. One thing I will I will go ahead and say, listen, we can, part of what we do at Chat Funnels is we help people with those lurkers and uncover that. What we're going to do, and I talked to Billy, our CEO, anybody who's seen this and anybody who has is interested, either go ahead and email me. You can reach me out to me on LinkedIn, Steve Eror. It's this guy with the beard. Or you can shoot me an email, steve.error@chatfunnels.com. Or on Chat Funnels website, engage with my team in the chat. And we'll give you, we'll set up 30 days where you can go ahead and give this a shot, and see how a tool like this will help. So we're trying to help everybody out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this has been so helpful, and any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from everybody. Either now, we've got a couple minutes, or offline. How do you look at this? How do you solve this? Do you have SDRs and BDRs? Are you thinking about getting them? Let us know anything that we can do to help. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. We,
good.
Yeah. Great, David. It's always a pleasure. I love every chance I get to hop on with you. Yeah. And, this has been great.
Definitely. Thanks, Steve. Have a great rest of your summit, and thanks everybody for jumping on.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.